Welcome back, friends. Today we're going to take you on a journey through one of the most extraordinary chapters in American history, a time when scientists unlocked the very secrets of the atom itself, when entire cities sprang up overnight in the desert, and when the promise of limitless power collided with fears that still echo today. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll walk together through the labs where brilliant minds first split the atom, stand beside the engineers who built the world's first nuclear reactors, and witness the moment when a single light bulb flickered to life, powered by something that seemed like magic. We'll explore the hidden cities where your fathers and mothers might have worked, places that didn't appear on any map. And we'll follow the story all the way to that spring evening in 1979, when everything changed on 3 Mile Island. You're going to hear names you might remember: Oppenheimer, Fermi, Rickover, and visit places that shaped your world: Chicago, Oak Ridge, Hanford, and Shippingport. Whether you watched the Nautilus slide beneath the waves, saw your electric bill drop in the 1960s, or sat glued to your television during that tense week in Pennsylvania, this story belongs to you. But here's what I want you to think about as we begin. How did we go from celebrating nuclear power as the answer to all our energy prayers to questioning whether we should have ever opened that atomic door? That's the question we'll answer together. So settle in and let's go back to where it all started. A small laboratory in Berlin, just before the world went to war. It's December 1938. In Berlin, a city that would soon be consumed by war, two chemists named Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann are working late into the night. They're bombarding uranium with neutrons, expecting to create heavier elements. Instead, what they find in their test tubes makes no sense at all. The uranium atoms aren't getting heavier, they're splitting apart. Hahn sends a letter to his former colleague, Lise Meitner, who had fled Nazi Germany just months earlier because she was Jewish. Picture her on a snowy walk through the Swedish countryside with her nephew, Otto Frisch, working out the mathematics in the snow with a stick. They realize what Hahn has stumbled upon: nuclear fission. The atom itself can be split, and when it splits, it releases energy, enormous energy. Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, wasn't just theoretical anymore. It was real, and it was powerful beyond imagination. News travels fast in the scientific community. By January 1939, physicists in America are reproducing the experiment. At Columbia University in New York, a young Italian refugee named Enrico Fermi, who had fled Mussolini's Italy with his Jewish wife, starts asking the dangerous question: could this create a chain reaction? Could one splitting atom cause others to split, and those cause still more in an explosive cascade of energy? The answer, they discover, is yes. And if the answer is yes, then whoever controls this power controls the future. America's scientists, many of them refugees who had escaped Hitler's Europe, know exactly what this means. They write a letter, signed by Albert Einstein himself, and deliver it to President Roosevelt. The message is urgent. Germany knows about fission too, and if they build an atomic bomb first, the war, and perhaps civilization itself, could be lost. Roosevelt listens. By 1942, America launches the Manhattan Project, the most ambitious scientific endeavor in human history. The goal? Build an atomic bomb before Hitler does. But what few people realize in those desperate war years is that this project will do more than end a war. It will open the door to an entirely new source of power, one that promises to light our cities, heat our homes, and power our future. Now, I want you to imagine something that might seem impossible. Entire cities being built in complete secrecy, employing tens of thousands of people, yet appearing on no map. If your father or uncle worked on the project during the war, he couldn't tell you where he went each day or what he did. Mail was censored. Phone calls were monitored. But the work had to be done, and it had to be done fast. Let's start in the mountains of Tennessee, where the Army Corps of Engineers chooses 60,000 acres of farmland near a tiny town called Oak Ridge. In September 1942, there's nothing there but woods and farms. By 1945, Oak Ridge is the 5th largest city in Tennessee, home to 75,000 people. Its purpose? To enrich uranium, separating the rare U-235 isotope that can sustain a chain reaction from the common U-238 that can't. The scale is staggering. The K-25 plant, a massive U-shaped building designed to use gaseous diffusion to separate uranium isotopes, stretches for half a mile. It's the largest building in the world at that time, requiring more electricity than most American cities. Young women, many of them fresh from farms and small towns, operate calutrons, giant electromagnetic separators that look like something from a science fiction movie. They monitor dials and adjust controls with remarkable precision. Yet most have no idea they're enriching uranium. They just know they're helping win the war. Meanwhile, in the desert scrublands of eastern Washington state, another secret city rises, Hanford. Here, along the Columbia River, the mission is different. They're building reactors, huge graphite piles that will transform uranium into plutonium, another element that can fuel an atomic bomb. The B reactor, which goes critical in September 1944, is a marvel of engineering. 1,200 tons of graphite blocks, 200 tons of uranium, and 30,000 aluminum tubes cooled by river water. Construction workers flood in, 45,000 at the peak, living in hastily built barracks, enduring desert heat and dust storms, working around the clock. The Columbia River, which your family might have fished in or rafted down, becomes the coolant for reactors that are changing the world. Radioactive waste goes into underground tanks, a problem that, if we're honest, they didn't fully understand yet. And then there's Los Alamos, perched on a mesa in the New Mexico desert. This is where the brilliant and the eccentric gather under J. Robert Oppenheimer, Oppie to his colleagues. They're building the bomb itself, designing the mechanism to bring uranium or plutonium to critical mass in a fraction of a second. Security is so tight that when wives give birth in the Army hospital, their baby's birth certificates list their birthplace as P.O. Box 1663. Think about that. Children born in a place that officially doesn't exist. But before Los Alamos could build bombs, someone had to prove that a controlled, sustained nuclear chain reaction was even possible. That someone was Enrico Fermi, and the place was Chicago, not in some remote laboratory, but beneath the football stands at the University of Chicago's Stagg Field. It's December 2nd, 1942, a cold afternoon. Fermi and his team have spent weeks building what they call a pile, 57 layers of graphite blocks, some containing uranium slugs, stacked into a flattened sphere 20 feet wide. Control rods made of cadmium, which absorbs neutrons, are inserted to prevent the reaction from starting. Today, they're going to try pulling those rods out, one at a time, and see if they can make the pile go critical, sustain a chain reaction. About 40 people gather in the squash court beneath the stands. It's cold enough that you can see your breath. Fermi stands at the front, slide rule in hand, as calm as if he's teaching a class. He's calculated everything, but this has never been done before. If it works, they'll prove that controlled nuclear power is possible. If it goes wrong, well, they're in the middle of a major American city. The first rod comes out. Neutron counters click faster. Fermi checks his slide rule, does mental calculations. "Pull it out another 6 inches, he says. More clicks. Someone asks if they should stop. Fermi shakes his head. The pile is not yet critical. This goes on for hours. Pull a rod, measure, calculate, pull more. The clicking grows louder, more insistent. A young physicist named Leona Woods, one of the few women on the team, watches the instruments, calling out readings. The tension builds. Everyone can feel it. At 3:25 p.m., Fermi looks at his slide rule one final time. "The pile has gone critical," he announces, his voice steady, but with a hint of wonder. The neutron counters are screaming now, a continuous roar of clicks blending together. The pile is sustaining a chain reaction, generating half a watt of power, not much, but enough to prove the principle works. They let it run for 28 minutes. Then Fermi orders the control rods reinserted. The reaction stops. Eugene Wigner, another physicist, produces a bottle of Chianti he's been hiding. They pour it into paper cups and toast, silently, because most of them understand. They've just opened a door that can never be closed. Nuclear power is real, and the world will never be the same. Fermi later describes the moment in his characteristically understated way. The Italian navigator has landed in the New World. But another scientist there that day will remember it differently. We were worried, he'll say years later, that we might become death itself. The bombs, of course, came first. Los Alamos succeeded, and on August 6th and 9th, 1945, the world learned what atomic energy could do. The war ended, but the question remained, what do we do with this power now? President Eisenhower, in his famous Atoms for Peace speech to the United Nations in December 1953, offered an answer. The atomic miracle, he said, could be turned to peaceful purposes, generating electricity, powering ships, curing disease. America would lead the way in showing that the atom could serve humanity, not just destroy it. But the military came first. Admiral Hyman Rickover, a tough, perfectionist engineer, becomes obsessed with the idea of nuclear-powered submarines. Think about it. A submarine that never needs to surface for air or fuel, that can stay submerged for months, could revolutionize naval warfare. Rickover drives his team relentlessly, demanding perfection in ways that make him legendary and sometimes feared. The result launches on January 21, 1954, USS Nautilus, the world's first nuclear-powered submarine. If you were following the news in those days, you remember the excitement. In August 1958, Nautilus does something no submarine has ever done: travels beneath the North Pole under solid pack ice. It's a feat that seems straight out of Jules Verne, yet here it is, made real by the atom. But Rickover wants more than submarines. He wants to prove nuclear power can generate electricity commercially. In 1953, he starts working on a pressurized water reactor for civilian use. The location chosen is Shippingport, Pennsylvania, a small town along the Ohio River, about 25 miles from Pittsburgh. Construction begins in September 1954. The plant is built to Rickover's exacting standards, everything triple-checked, every weld inspected, every procedure written and reviewed. On December 2, 1957, exactly 15 years after Fermi's pile went critical, the Shippingport reactor goes online. President Eisenhower in Washington waves a ceremonial neutron wand to start it up. The power flows into the grid serving Pittsburgh and surrounding areas. It's the dawn of a new age. Shippingport proves it can be done. Nuclear power can generate electricity safely and reliably. Power companies take notice. General Electric and Westinghouse start designing commercial reactors. Utilities begin planning nuclear plants across the country. The promise seems limitless. In 1954, Lewis Strauss, chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission, makes a prediction that captures the optimism of the time. Electricity from nuclear power will be too cheap to meter. Imagine that. Energy so abundant and inexpensive that there's no point in measuring how much you use. The 1960s are nuclear power's golden age. Plants spring up across America. Oyster Creek in New Jersey, 9 Mile Point in New York, Connecticut Yankee, Zion in Illinois. If you lived through those years, you might remember the excitement and perhaps the controversy when a nuclear plant was proposed near your community. The reactors use controlled nuclear fission, similar in principle to Fermi's pile, but vastly more sophisticated. Enriched uranium fuel assemblies sit in a reactor core submerged in water. As atoms split, they release heat and neutrons. The neutrons cause more atoms to split in a carefully controlled chain reaction. Control rods, modern versions of what Fermi used, regulate the reaction by absorbing neutrons. The heat turns water to steam. The steam drives turbines. The turbines generate electricity. Simple in concept, incredibly complex in execution. By 1970, there are 22 licensed nuclear power plants in America, generating enough electricity to power several million homes. Another 50 are under construction or planned. Utilities love them. Once built, fuel costs are low, and they can run at full power for months without stopping. Environmental groups initially support them too. Nuclear plants produce no air pollution, no smoke, no carbon dioxide. In an era increasingly concerned about smog and air quality, this matters. Your electric bill might have even gone down. Remember those advertisements? Utility companies promising clean, cheap power from the peaceful atom. Children's books explain nuclear fission with friendly cartoon atoms. Disney produces an educational film showing how nuclear plants work. The 1964 World's Fair in New York features an entire pavilion dedicated to atomic energy, with glowing exhibits and optimistic predictions. But beneath the optimism, concerns are growing. Scientists and engineers understand that nuclear power, for all its promise, comes with risks that conventional power plants don't have. Radioactive materials must be handled with extreme care. Reactor cores must be cooled continuously, even after they're shut down, or the fuel can overheat and melt. And what do you do with spent nuclear fuel, which remains dangerously radioactive for thousands of years? The industry and regulators insist they have answers. Multiple backup systems, thick concrete containment buildings, careful procedures. The chances of a serious accident, they say, are vanishingly small. 1 in a million, maybe 1 in 10 million. In March 1979, those odds catch up with us. It's 4 a.m. on Wednesday, March 28, 1979. Most of America is asleep. At the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the night shift is monitoring Unit 2, which has been running for just 3 months. Then a minor equipment malfunction occurs. A valve in the water system sticks. What happens next exposes weaknesses nobody wanted to believe existed. A pressure relief valve automatically opens to release steam as designed. But then it sticks open. The reactor, thinking it has too much water, automatically shuts down. But with the valve stuck, cooling water is pouring out. The operators, looking at confusing instrument readings, don't realize what's happening. They make decisions that seem right, but make things worse. Over the next several hours, the reactor core is partially uncovered. Without water, the temperature soars. Fuel rods begin to melt. By the time operators understand what's happening, nearly half the core has suffered damage. Radioactive gases are released into the containment building. Some escape into the atmosphere. Now imagine you're living in Harrisburg or Middletown in those days. Maybe you remember it. The news breaks Wednesday morning, but information is confused, contradictory. Is it serious? Are we in danger? Governor Dick Thornburgh holds a press conference, but admits he doesn't know what's happening inside the plant. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission says one thing. The plant operators say another. By Friday, tensions peak. There are reports, later found to be wrong, of a hydrogen bubble inside the reactor that could explode. Officials consider evacuation. Schools close. Governor Thornburgh advises pregnant women and young children within 5 miles to leave. Roads fill with families packing cars, not knowing if they'll be able to return. You might remember watching Walter Cronkite on CBS Evening News, his face grave as he explained what a meltdown could mean. Or perhaps you lived through it yourself, deciding whether to stay or go, trying to protect your family from an invisible danger you couldn't see or understand. In the end, no one is killed. Radiation releases, while alarming, are relatively small. about equal to a chest X-ray for someone living nearby. The containment building, that massive concrete shell, does its job. Engineers eventually bring the plant under control. But the psychological damage is immense. Within months, plans for new nuclear plants are canceled across America. Existing plants face new, stricter regulations. The golden age ends. And so here we are, friends, at the end of our journey through 4 decades that changed the world. From Fermi's pile beneath a football field to the crisis at 3 Mile Island. From secret cities that didn't exist on maps to submarines gliding beneath the Arctic ice. From promises of limitless power to the sobering realization that every form of energy comes with a price. What did we learn? That human ingenuity can unlock nature's deepest secrets. That good intentions can have complex consequences. That the same force that can power a city can also destroy one. And perhaps most importantly, that every generation must weigh the benefits of new technology against its risks and decide for themselves how to move forward. The nuclear plants built in your working years are still running, many of them still providing about 20% of America's electricity. The debates continue about whether we should build more or phase them out. The spent fuel still sits in storage, waiting for a permanent solution we haven't found. But one thing is certain. That December afternoon when Fermi's pile went critical beneath Stagg Field marked a turning point in human history. We became a species that could harness the atom itself. Whether that proves to be humanity's greatest achievement or its most dangerous gamble, well, that's a question your grandchildren are still trying to answer. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Until next time, remember, history isn't just facts and dates. It's the story of people. People like your parents, your neighbors, maybe even you, living through extraordinary times and making the choices that shape the world we know today.